Metallist here, time for another episode. It's been a few days, had some scheduling conflicts for lack of a better term. So tonight's show, even though I have this fabulous UFO shirts from the Mechanics Tour on tonight, probably should have found a KISS shirt because tonight is all about KISS, particularly KISS tour books and some KISS tour books I have from through the years. I noticed when I collected them all up here, I have tour books from different bands, but I have mostly KISS because of course, KISS is a visual medium, if you will. I noticed that, one, it was always original members. I don't have any stuff with fake Gene, or not fake Gene. Well, Gene's kind of fake anyway sometimes. But fake Ace and fake Peter, also known as Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer. I like Eric Singer a lot, to be honest. I've seen him with a lot of different bands. I've seen him with Alice Cooper, Badlands. I think I saw him with Lita Ford. I saw Union, which was a band he had with John Corabi. So the cat gets around, as most drummers do. They're usually kind of guys for hire, if you will. So all my books have original members and no books without the makeup. So, which makes sense because the original members didn't do any tours without the makeup. All right, so we'll start off with the most recent and go backwards. So this one is from the farewell tour 21 years ago. Yeah, right. Okay, so this one is from 2000. And you can see this sort of got the cutout KISS thing here. Kind of cool, right? Yeah. All right. And this book was pretty big. I imagine it was pretty expensive. I don't remember anymore. But we'll see if I can page through this thing here. What would be good? Just give you an idea. But yeah, got some nice history going on here. Some of the early shots here notice we have Paul with what is sometimes known as the bandit makeup, but sort of before the star on the eye kind of thing. You can see Peter's makeup here was a little fancier back in the day, that kind of thing. Gene's is not quite as fancy, but that's okay. So yeah, a lot of good history in this one. That's probably why I picked this one up. And, so yeah, since I figured they were quote unquote calling it a day, I guess they decided to do a little bit of history. Incidentally, I have to check. I think there's a history thing on E tonight or tomorrow, something like that. I'll have to see the actual date for it. But yeah, this is a nice book. This is a big one here. I have this poster somewhere of the 1976 tour. And here we go again. So this looks like probably 77, 78, somewhere in there. So it's more of a retrospect. This is a more recent picture of the guys. Probably 78, maybe 79, maybe about Dynasty time, something like that. Although it does say 77 down the corner. It looks newer than that, though. I could be wrong. I have this poster as well. And this is also from the 77, 78 tour. It actually has the tour dates in here, so I could look up the shows I've actually seen. This is pretty good. Okay. So I notice in this one we do have Eric Carr on the drums. So this would probably be sort of that unmasked period. Although Peter, I think, is listed as so maybe like the Elder, but a little bit before Creatures because Ace didn't tour with them. Creatures. That's when Vinnie Vincent showed up, of course. And there's Eric again with his fox makeup, I believe they called it. And so then we get into the era that I don't pay much attention to, I'll be honest. I mean, there's some good tracks there, don't get me wrong. There's some pretty good stuff. Here's Mark St. John. He didn't last very long, and I believe he has passed on since then. He had some sort of hand injury or something, and he did very few shows. So if you were lucky enough to see a show with Mark St. John, that's a pretty rare thing. Okay, so here we are about the makeup. Here we got Bruce Kulick over here. His brother Bob Kulick was actually sort of their original guy that looked like he was going to be the guitar player, but Bruce kind of came in. Bob wrote some songs with them, and he recently passed on as well. Bruce currently plays with Grand Funk Railroad, which is kind of odd. So he's sort of the replacement for Mark Farner. So Don and Mel are still going. I think there's a fourth guy in the band, but I couldn't tell you much about it. So again, So yeah, so this is more of a retrospective kind of book, which is pretty cool. But I did pick this up at the tour that year, which incidentally I took my mother to see. And the reason I took my mom was this was supposed to be the farewell tour, right? And my mom took me to my first Kiss show, so I thought I'd return the favor, and I took her to this one. And she made out pretty good because the show she took me to, I think the tickets were $7 or $7.50, something like that. Here's the Unplugged era when they brought Peter and Ace back for a little bit. And I think the tickets for this particular show were more like $75, which is probably cheap by today's standards. So here we go. We got the reunion going on. We'll be talking about that here in a little bit. And there's some stuff from the 96 reunion tour, 96 and 97. And don't remember if they came here in 96 or 97. I don't remember. But again, I could probably look it up here at some point. So yeah, good stuff. Okay, so let's look at some of the last shots probably with Peter. At some point, Eric Singer's going to come in here. Funny story about Eric Singer. I saw him play with Alice Cooper at the Canton Palace Theater. I want to say it was the Brutal Planet tour, maybe. And I'm standing out in front of the Canton Palace. There's a picture of Gene there. Standing in front of the Canton Palace. And I'm looking at this guy that's just standing there, just kind of looking around. So I gave him a glance. I was like, he looks familiar. I gave him another glance. Still looked familiar. Gave him a third glance. And finally he says, yeah, it's me. It was Eric Singer. The reason I didn't pick up that it was Eric Singer right away was when Eric was like in Badlands and bands like that, he had very long blonde hair. Even when he was in Kiss with like the Revenge era and that kind of thing, he had like the long blonde hair. So he had short, about shoulder length, feathered dark hair. I said, what's with the hair? And he says, all will become clear in January. So he already had the gig in Kiss, but they were waiting to start up again. So I guess, maybe he wasn't allowed to say anything for some reason. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. So then, when, the new year rolled around, all of a sudden it's like they announced that Eric Singer was in Kiss and he was going to be putting on the Peter Criss makeup. I'm like, oh, okay. Now it all makes sense. But, Eric's a Cleveland boy. He says allegedly that he got thrown out of a Kiss show up at the Allen Theater in '74 because he climbed up in the balcony. So, or not the balcony, but like the little like private seating areas on each side of the stage. I don't know what you call those little places. Looks like the thing where Lincoln got shot, something like that. Okay. So anyway, so that was from 2000. So a couple years prior to that, we did an actual album, Psycho Circus. So that's from this one. And there's the boys. That's a good shot of the guys. And I have some Psycho Circus posters I got from when I worked at Digital Days. I have those tucked away somewhere. But pretty good stuff here. Apparently they did 200 shows for this one, 24 countries. But it was nice to see all the guys together again. It didn't last real long, but it was nice to see. And here we have a nice shot of Paul Stanley's shoe. So some nice pictures here. So I'm glad I picked this one up. It's hard to believe these books are older than or over 20 years old now, but that's the way it goes. Actually, the shirt I should have worn today rather than the UFO, I should have found my commemorative Destroyer t-shirt for their 20th anniversary, which means I bought it in 1996. So the shirt is well past 20 years old itself now, and it was for the 20th anniversary of Destroyer. So it's a fairly old t-shirt as well. And again, we've got some good stuff going on here. All right. They certainly are photogenic, and we'll grant them that. So as we get into the tour books, they actually do get smaller back in the day as they are here. These are a little more elaborate, but very nice, just the same. There's nice shots here, Peter. Good stuff. Haven't looked at these in a while. And of course, you have to have an ad for Gene's bass, which anybody who read his book will know that he basically figured out how much the bass would cost, started taking orders for the bass before he actually started manufacturing. So he took your money to manufacture the basses and then eventually made a bunch of money. And I believe these were going for like $1,500, something like that. And here, of course, is the used to be the Paul Stanley Ibanez, but apparently he went to Washburn at some point. Washburn, excuse me. And of course, we got Ace's Gibson here. So a little bit of gear stuff, right? Okay. And then the history books, I think they were $160, and I considered buying one at one of the shows. All right, so before that, this was the big reunion tour. This happened after the Unplugged thing. Alive Worldwide. Took some of my friends to this. They've never seen Kiss. Shout out to Lee and Noreen. I'm sure they enjoyed that a lot. So again, there's the boys back in the day with their manager, Bill Coyne, over there. All right. This looks like this was the press conference. It was on some kind of battleship, I believe. Remember the press conference about the reunion and everything. And then once again, a little more history. They tend to like to do their history stuff. And again, I got to look for that A&E program. It's supposed to be on here in the next couple of days, I'm pretty sure. So we've got some more good stuff there. All right. So lots of good pictures. I have not looked at what these books go for on eBay or anything. These probably aren't too expensive, I would think. They're relatively recent in the big scheme of things. So the ones coming up might be a different story. I'm trying to keep as much clarity out for you guys as possible. That's a good one. Gotta like that. That would probably be a good poster, right? Okay. Some shots for Paul. And like most people, I came in around Alive. And was kind of blown away by the whole thing. And when you're a kid and you see stuff like this, you're like, whoa. I was never really a comic book guy, but these guys were, they were something special, for sure. Good shots, Peter there. I will say, probably the last tour I saw Peter, he looked like he was barely hitting the drums, but still nice to have him there. Eric Singer is a very solid drummer, and of course, Eric Carr, the late great Eric Carr, was a pretty darn good drummer on his own right. The sad thing for Eric was he happened to pass away the same day as Freddie Mercury. And Freddie took away most of the press because he was slightly more legendary, but still, Eric was deserving of his own accolades for being a heck of a good drummer. Okay, there we go. I do actually have one of Gene Simmons' books autographed, which is pretty cool. So that's what the autographs look like. Okay, so that was from '97. Let's back up here about, I don't know, 17, 18 years. This is from the Dynasty Tour. So I picked this up in July of 1979. And as you notice, the book's a little smaller. And a nice picture there from the Dynasty era. And of course, we have to have an ad for the Kiss pinball machine, which they used to carry at Montgomery Ward's, I remember back in the day. And they had one there, and of course, when my mom was shopping, I would go in there and fight with the other kids to see who could get on it and get to play for a little bit. Got some good shots there with Gene. So this book here is pretty simple. Not quite as elaborate as some of the later stuff, but still, like I said, this is from '79. As you can tell, there's quite a few less records. That was soon after the solo albums came out. Of course, Ace Frehley's is my favorite of the solo albums. And the Dynasty record, which some people malign because of the disco song, but it was still a pretty solid record. There were some good songs in there. Ace's cover of 2000 Man was pretty awesome. Gotta say, I was a pretty good fan of that. Dirty Livin' was a cool song. So there was some good stuff in there. Actually, Sure Know Something was pretty good too. So we can forgive him for the disco tune, I think. At least that's my opinion. Cool shot of Peter there. We've done one a lot. And yeah, one more page. It doesn't want to change it, does. There we go. Oh, of course we had to advertise. So back then there was the Ibanez. We saw the other one was Washburn guitars. And then just the Kiss logos on the back. Pretty cool. All right, so let's back it up a couple years from there. For you folks in Northeast Ohio, you will remember this as the Blizzard concert. All right? January 8th, 1978. Not that we remember it, but we do. Went into the show. Everything was great. Great show. Bought my book. Came out. Where's our car? Everything's buried under snow. Gene Simmons tells this story a lot. He says that that was the night they couldn't leave the venue. They actually ended up spending the night at the Richfield Coliseum because they couldn't get out. Them and their, I think, 22 semis that carried all their gear. But so this is from that tour, World Tour of 77 and 78. So again, this is from, of course, we got the Kiss Army thing. And again, like I said, not quite as elaborate. Bigger book than the last one. Kind of a tall book. And a cool picture there of Peter. Really cool one of Ace. And no, I'm not making that glare. He's making that glare. And I'd have to say Ace was probably my favorite guy in Kiss. As a matter of fact, during the era where Ace was not in the band and they weren't wearing the makeup, if there had been a coincidence where Kiss was in town and Ace Frehley was in town, I was going to see Ace. That was just me. So we got some liner notes of some kind there and a bunch of other cool pictures. So good stuff. All right. Got some nice shots here of Peter. That's a good one. We got this one over here. Also very cool. A little more wear and tear to these, A, because they're older, and B, because I used to sit and look at these things a lot. Very cool picture of Ace. I like that one a lot. I like this one a lot. Matter of fact, I think I used to try to recreate that one. I used to try to draw that one while I was sitting bored in class. All right. So Paul and Gene. There's Paul mugging for the camera. Gene doing the thing he never wanted to do, but accidentally got volunteered into it, voluntold, I suppose. Another one of Peter, I assume, singing Beth. Another cool one of Ace. Let me get my arm out of the way. There we go. Very cool. And as you can see, the number of albums keeps shrinking. So this was pre-solo records. So not that many albums at that point. All right, and finally, my first Kiss show that my mom took me to. Took me and a couple of my buddies. Shout out to Ted and Ed. This is from 1976. Kiss on Tour. Of course, the Kiss Army thing already going. So this is the oldest book I have. And again, you can see a little bit simpler. Nothing really going on over here. Got some cool pictures here of the boys. All right. I imagine this one goes for a pretty penny. Maybe. One of my all-time favorite pictures of Ace, right there. Get it in there for you, give you a good shot. So very cool with the smoking guitar. And over here we got Peter Criss. Very cool. All right. So I don't know if this makes it worth more or not. Here's a shot of Paul standing, but this thing here, this was an iron-on Kiss decal to put on your own t-shirt. And I never took it out, never used it. So it's still in the book. The only thing I did that might reduce the value a little bit was I ended up actually writing the date of the show on here. So the show was September 3rd, 1976. And got some more pictures, of course, Gene with the fire. Some more shots down here. This would be a very cool poster. Some old school shots there. So this is back in the days where you could still use magnesium in the flash bombs, which means when they sent one up, you saw blue for about the next 10 minutes. Then OSHA started getting involved, the guys that actually usually work with people that are working, but they started looking at this stuff and said, you know, those magnesium flash pods are probably blinding people. So here's your application for the KISS Army. And I think at that time it was sent $5. Cash, check, or money order? I'm sure Gene preferred cash. Right? Okay, we had some KISS swag back in the day. This book cost $3 for what I'm showing you right now back in the day. Had both KISS belt buckles, and I got them around somewhere. Definitely have that. Do not have this poster, but I have a different poster from the Alive era. Don't have the t-shirts, but yeah, you could order all this stuff on here at what is relatively cheap prices by today's KISS standards. All right. There's Paul getting pelted with the confetti during rock and roll night. And another cool shot of Peter from behind the kid. That's kind of cool. You get to see those every day. All right. And cool shot of Gene. So yeah, I treasure these things quite a bit. Here we go. Looks like the boys at the end of the night. And once again, these are the albums we have. I actually have an ad here for the originals. Doesn't have an actual cover yet. I saw one time at Shattered Records up in Cleveland, there was something called the Originals 2. I don't know what that was all about. I think it was the next 3 albums, but I think it must have been something pretty rare because the guy that owned the store, Frank, he was selling this thing for like $400 or something like that. But so that's it. That's the whole collection of the KISS books. You KISS fans, I hope you enjoy that. And I was just thinking I should probably do one on maybe my other tour books. I was also thinking that I should probably make sure all the UFO shirts are clean sometime. Let you have a look at the UFO collection for shirts. And but we'll do that at another time. So again, I appreciate you guys showing up. Like I say, like, subscribe, give me some comments on the books. Let me know when I screw something up, because it can happen. Even I can mess things up, just kidding. So, but again, appreciate you guys coming, and we'll see you all next time.